This one's going to be very long. We're doing it once again. We're doing it again. This is not my greatest act of love part two. This is called Love is My Favorite Contradiction. When I say that I hope that no one watches it, I don't mean I hope that you don't. I mean, if no one did, I think I'd be happy. This is entirely for accountability purposes and so I don't forget. Because regrettably, my memory tends to fall short whenever it comes to love sometimes. This one is called once again, Love is My Favorite Contradiction. Get ready to sit down or save this and then listen to it later. This is going to be long, 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 long. If love must speak my dialect to survive, then it is not love. What if the wish fulfillment is only a mirror, and the miracle is not that they arrive perfected, but that they arrive real and refuse the script and still choose to stand near us while we tremble in the unsolved parts? Because the knife is not only in our hand, it is in our hunger. It is in the fear that says, become understandable or be gone, be consistent or be unlovable, be mine in the way I can manage, or do not be mine at all. I almost choked myself saying that sentence. You hear that? Common courtesy is not common. It is a muscle, it is a weather system. It is learnt in kitchens, in classrooms, in cramped waiting rooms where love had rules and silence had consequences. It is shaped by what was it was shaped by what was experienced. It was shaped by what was expected and what was never asked. By who could be late and still be forgiven, by who had to explain every absence like it was evidence. It is never neutral. What feels natural to one can feel like erasure to another, and neither is wrong, only different languages of care. I love a small thing, not presence, not constant time, not a tether, just a thread, love in the pocket. Busy today, not talking today, was doing something. A sentence so minor most people would not count it, but it feels to me like a hand resting briefly on the shoulder of my mind, a quiet proof that I crossed your day without having to become your day. For me, that is care, not attention, recognition. The love of my life, she has a tendency to disappear sometimes. No warning, no explanation, just quiet, and she does not feel the need to translate her silence into reassurance. For her, silence is not neglect, it is simply living. A life does not report itself. A person does not owe a record of their hours. I understand this. I do not want her to learn apology as a second language. I do not want to train love to feel like a task. I do not want affection to taste like obligation, care to feel like performance, intimacy to become another office. So I try and hold two truths like a warm glass. I love the courtesy that makes room for reassurance, and I love her, the way she moves through quiet like it is not a problem to solve, like it is not an insult, like rest is allowed to be rest. She gives courtesy to the world of her work, to business, to professionalism. There, communication is structure. There, the small signal is a skill, an etiquette, a contract written in air. With those she trusts, however, she relaxes the structure. No reporting, no performance. Comfort looks like silence. And that too is beautiful. But I come from a different country of affection, a place where silence used to mean danger, where absence was a door that did not open again, where my heart learnt to strike first before it could be struck and called it wisdom. I have mistaken proactivity with constant reactivity. I have blocked people like I could outrun grief by deleting the route. I have turned storms into decisions, then woke up when the weather changed and acted confused that somebody had been drenched. I am learning how easily love becomes architecture and infrastructure, how quickly the mind draws a floor plan for another person. Here is where you will speak. Here is where you will stay. Here is where you will return. So I know I matter. I do not always call it control. Sometimes I call it care. Sometimes I call it communication. Sometimes I call it the way love should look. Sometimes I want to be loved like I can be written, as if I could draft a person the way a page accepts ink, loyal, steady, always returning on schedule, always speaking in the tone that makes my nervous system unclench. And I have done this before, taken the outline in my head and tried to place a body inside it. Ruby Sparks, the movie, with softer hands, a romance written in the margins of expectation, a romance where the horror is simple. You get what you asked for, and you call it love, and you do not notice the cost is a human. It's no longer be mine, it's be this. Be the version of love that calms the part of me that still flinches. I do not want that. I do not want to write my lover into an extension of my wounds. I do not want to fit her into my puzzle by cutting away what makes her whole. I am learning how dangerous that is, because love changes shapes long before it disappears. It becomes quieter, busier, heavier, more human. The stars go out and the light switch is in the living room. And I do not want to be cut either. I try to practice the harder art, learning what I want without calling it what I am owed, naming the difference without making it a courtroom, standing inside discomfort without turning it into a weapon. Because love requires compromises, yes, but not amputations. Concessions, yes, but not erasures. And there is a moment when the heart asks, is this less love or just less illusion? I have been both sides of the silence. I have been the hurricane and the flooded house, the one who vanished when my storms arrived, and the opposite. I am trying to take the I out of love, not by disappearing, not by pretending I do not have needs, but by refusing to make my needs a verdict on somebody else. I am learning to see how easily desire becomes demand when fear is driving. I am learning that sometimes the lesson is not find someone who speaks your language perfectly, as if love is a customer service line or a delivery service. Sometimes the lesson is do not turn your longing into a leash. Do not turn your self-hatred into another voice inside someone you adore. Do not mistake reassurance for ownership. Understanding is quiet work. It is the place where expectation turns into recognition. I write it down anyway, like understanding, even when I know it will not fix anything immediately or make sense immediately, even when the page is a room with no doors, no Wi-Fi, and no witness. It is still a kind of courtesy, not the social kind, not the private kind, the kind you give your own mind when it is crowded. This is her, and this is me. This is the space between us where definitions do not match. And I am learning not to take that personally. She is not withholding. She was not withholding. She is resting inside the safety of being known. And I am learning that love is sometimes not asking for your language to become theirs. When someone disappears now, I am learning to ask a different question, not why am I not enough, but what does quiet mean in their world? Sometimes it is learning how their silence says you are safe, and I feel safe with you. And sometimes it is me becoming the kind of person who does not only act when the stars are visible, who understands that devotion is not always a feeling, it is a practice. Rising to love and not just falling in love. A choice, a steadiness made in ordinary hours. Love is not a shelter nobody leaves. Love is not a cage nobody escapes. Love is not a character I get to control because I am afraid. Love is a living thing that must remain alive in both bodies. So if I ask for anything, I hope, let it be gentle, let it be honest, let it be light enough to hold without strain. A small signal, not a report, not a performance. Just enough to say, nothing is wrong, I am here, I will return. And if that sentence does not come, if quiet is her comfort, then I will practice a different courtesy. I will not punish her for being herself. I will not punish myself for flinching. I will name the feeling. I will breathe. I will choose discernment over impulse. I will choose love that does not require a written human. Because I am learning slowly, very slowly, painfully slowly, That the opposite of control is not chaos, it is trust. It is the brave, ordinary work of letting a person remain a person, even when they do not arrive in the shape my fear prefers. Back to Ruby Sparks for a second. The urge to write a person before I meet them, hair, voice, depth, the way they will understand me without asking, the way they will stay even when I disappear. You often write your missing pieces, and then you hand them a life sentence. Be my stability, be my certainty, be the version of me that does not leave. No one survives this role, not even love. People are not stories. They can be, and their stories are powerful. Please share them. They are drafts, revisions, contradictions that do not ask permission before changing. And I am one of them. My feelings rise and fall like authority, like truth, like fate. If I only act when I feel love, I will abandon it again and again. So I am learning discipline where I once trusted emotion, learning how to love without authoring, without editing, without turning another person into a quieter version of my fear, to reach out when the feeling is gone, to stay when certainty isn't, to choose care without waiting for the sky to clear. Because love is not intensity, it is oftentimes continuity and consistency. It is the effort. It is effort. On days the heart is quiet. It is action when intuition is tired. I got a little off topic there. The Ruby Sparks question, sorry. What if we wrote our lover and all that we wanted them to be? Well, we might wind up writing everything that we lack within ourselves and need to love some more. And if that is true, then every edit is a confession, every expectation is a mirror, every quiet disappointment a place where we met our own unfinished tenderness and handed it to someone else to carry. The question remains and does not soften because no, there is no certainty here. How much of another person must be cut away to make them fit your idea of love? How much of yourself must be cut away to live inside theirs? I am trying to learn how to remove the knife, to let two shapes exist without forcing alignment, to hold the space where mismatch lives without calling it failure, to hold the space where mismatch lives without calling it failure, to stand inside uncertainty without rushing to carve certainty out of someone's skin. Metaphor again, not literally, because love is not a shelter, it is a weather shared. They arrive with climates older than anything I know, with languages shaped in houses I never entered, with silences that were once survival, with distances that once meant safety, and that applies to you as well. Sometimes warm, sometimes distant, sometimes rain falling from a sky you did not expect to darken. And maybe the work is not building walls against the storm, not redesigning the sky, not rewriting the person beside you, but learning how to stay when the forecast changes. Hands open, heart unarmed. It is learning how to love without authoring, without editing, without turning another person into a quieter version of my fear. Willing to be touched by whatever arrives and still say, I do not need you to become my shape. I only need us both to remain alive inside the weather. If love is anything worth keeping, let it be this unbearable tenderness. Let it not be in my dialect. Let it be two shapes unforced, two truths unowned, two people still whole, still free, standing in the same storm without asking the sky to choose a side. That should be the end of the poem. All in all, discernment is tough, and leaning on your own understanding is even tougher. May we all allow ourselves to stand in a storm without asking the sky to choose a side, because all of our skies have different horizons. Love you. All the best.